head out of this thing. So, how many of you are actually selling online? I know 2 of you are. And a third. Anybody else selling products online?
On Etsy.
On Etsy? What kind of things are you selling?
Invitations.
Oh, cool, cool. So there's 4 of you. I have to kind of assume that the others are thinking about selling online or thinking in some way of marketing online. Let's get started. So we've got the screen up, haven't we? I'm going to tell you a little story about someone who called me early in 2005. Jake called me, and he had a little store selling Mazda Miata parts. That's the Mazda Miata up there. And he was doing pretty well. He had a store up and running. He'd been in business a couple of years, and he was making money. But how was he making money? Well, he had his website. That's what everybody thinks of. I want to sell online, I'll set up a website. Although, actually, the 3 of you so far haven't mentioned that. But this is the typical answer. I want to sell something online, I'm going to set up a website. What he wasn't doing was search engine optimization, and that's why he called me. I wrote a book called Search Engine Optimization for Dummies, and he called me for help on search engine optimization. He wasn't doing that at all. He wasn't doing pay-per-click advertising. Everybody know what I mean? That first few results at the top of Google are ads. He wasn't using those. He wasn't using Facebook, mainly because Facebook didn't exist back then. He wasn't using Twitter. Twitter didn't exist back then. But he wasn't even using MySpace. Anybody remember MySpace? I remember somebody telling me, I've had hundreds of consulting clients over the years, and I remember, I think it was a realtor saying to me, well, my nephew says if I want to do business online, I have to have a MySpace site. It wasn't true then, and it's certainly not true now. But he wasn't using MySpace. So what was he doing? Well, he was doing, for a start, $2 million a month in revenues. The reason he was doing this was he asked the right question. And most people, when they get into business online, they ask the wrong question. What they ask is, how do I sell products online? And that's completely the wrong answer. Excuse me, wrong question. The right question is what Jake asked. Jake asked, where are the people I want to reach online? And you might argue that's a subtle difference. I'm trying to keep my phone out of the light and. Oh, have I? Can you hear better now? Need to get a little higher. Huh? How does this work? So, Jake asked, how do I find the people I want to sell to online? And it took him in a completely different direction. So what Jake was doing, he was going to the forums, the discussion groups related to Mazda Miata in particular, of course. There are discussion groups that focus just on that, and sports car forums in general. And people would ask questions. They'd say, I need a 10-inch circular widget for a 1993 Mazda Miata. And he would pop into these messages and he would say, check out my store. I've got everything related to the Mazda Miata. And he told me that eventually other people started to do the work for him. He would go to bed at night, someone somewhere would post a message into one of these forums saying, I need this or I need that for a Mazda Miata. And someone else would jump in and say, check out Jake's store. He's got everything related to Mazda Miata. Now, Jake was very helpful, very knowledgeable. He would answer people's questions. He got very well known in these forums. And so he did obviously build a website eventually. We've got another attendee just turned up. He did have his website, but he would answer these questions. People would say, go to Jake's store. And he was doing $2 million by thinking out of the box. Now, Jake's competitors asked the other question. They asked, how do I sell online? And the obvious answer, and you can tell this if you do the search, how can I sell online, you will get results, search Google for how do I sell online, you're going to get results about all sorts of different e-commerce systems. So that appears to be the answer. And that's what his competitors did. They set up these e-commerce sites selling Mazda Miata parts, and they opened their stores, and there was no one there. So what did they think they should do? Well, then they started thinking, well, we'll do some SEO, we'll do some pay-per-click. Later on, they were thinking of set up a Facebook group or whatever. But their problem was, of course, by the time somebody thinks about searching for Mazda Miata parts, going to Google and searching, chances are Jake has grabbed them by the wrist and dragged them into his store. So you've got two different paths. It's a subtle way of thinking about this, but I think it's a very important way, and I will give more examples of how this works. Now, I've been online a very long time. I've been online since 1984. I've been on the internet since 1993. I went onto the World Wide Web in 93. I wrote The Complete Idiot's Guide to the Internet back in 93. I've written, I think it was 7 editions of that book before 2001. SEO for Dummies I wrote in 2003. I've done 6 editions of that book, and I've done literally dozens of books in between about working online, doing business online. When I first got on the World Wide Web, there were 200 websites. And you had to use what was called a line mode browsers, where there were no pictures, it was all text. You couldn't use a mouse. If you wanted to click on a link, you'd see a number at the end of the link, and you'd have to type the number and press enter. So I've watched the development of the web all the way through. And over the years, I've done a lot of consulting. I've worked with literally hundreds of different companies. I've worked with Amazon and Zillow and Avo and Honey Baked Ham and Lonely Planet. But I've worked with hundreds of smaller companies, ranging from a few million in revenues a year down to independents, realtors and attorneys. And so I've seen a lot of these mistakes. So what I'm telling you today is based on my experience of what I've seen people do wrong. So the problem is, here is the problem. If we have a big range of people, I know what 2 of you do, I'm not sure what the rest of you do, but I'm betting you don't all do the same thing. So it's very hard for me to come into this room and say, this is how you do digital marketing. I used to do presentations on search engine optimization. I can come in here and I can tell you how to do SEO, and I can tell you where to put the keywords, how to pick your keywords, where to put the keywords in the hidden code, where to put the keywords in the visible code, but it'll turn into a blur. It's not going to do you much good, and a lot of you probably never need SEO. You, Len, is it? Certainly don't need SEO, and you've found your way to Amazon already, which I'm going to discuss in a moment. So what I'm speaking about more these days is strategy. The big mistakes people make, it's not about little technical issues about where to put their keywords. It's about making the wrong decision in the first place, about going in the wrong direction right from the start. There's just too much information out there. This is the first thing. You start searching about how to sell online, and you just get flooded with ideas. There's just way too much. And unfortunately, a lot of this information is biased. I was thinking about this morning. It used to be, let's say 20, 30 years ago, if you wanted to learn about how to sell a particular type of product, where would you get your information? You'd get it from magazines like Entrepreneur and Inc., or you get it from books like Guerrilla Marketing Series. These days, a lot of the information online is biased because the content being produced is being produced by the companies selling services. And the problem is one size does not fit all. So we have all these people in the room today. You probably all need a slightly different digital marketing mechanism. So for me to come in and say, this is how you do it, might work for one of you, but it isn't going to work for all dozen of you, whatever it is. Now the other problem is, of course, you've all heard the saying about if you're holding a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so a lot of the advice online, come back to the bias advice, a lot of the advice online is being put out there by companies who have something to sell. A couple of years ago, I was giving a presentation. Has anybody heard the term content is king? Anybody heard that term? I see a couple of nods. Content is king. It comes from a paper written by Bill Gates many years ago. but it's been twisted around. What he said at the time made sense, but it's been twisted around. They use it in SEO now. You hear people say content is king. Well, people say that because there's a lot of money to be made in content marketing, what is called content marketing. And content marketing is not the answer for everybody. It's a great answer for some people, but it's not the answer for everybody. So if you're holding the content marketing hammer, every client you see is a nail that should be hit with that content marketing hammer. That's the theory, but of course it's just not wrong, just not right. So I was going to ask at this stage what people sell. I know a couple of people now what you sell. I suppose most people, you're not supposed to say anything, Roger, until you reach a certain point in the inventor game.
You've already disclosed it publicly or sold it, it doesn't matter. But if you think you may want to patent it.
Yeah, yeah.
In the U.S., you have a 1-year
Yeah.
period. That's probably not good
To talk about it, yeah. Yes, kind of an unusual group. Usually people want to say what they do, but not you guys so much. But so the problem with all this information, whoops, I already went the wrong way. Well, I tell you what, I'll tell you this little story. That's the problem with the clicker. It's too easy to click and hit the wrong slide. Another client came to me a few years ago, and he said to me, I want to set up, no, excuse me, he'd already set up. He wanted search engine help with his website, which was a gift shop website. He was selling gifts online, all sorts of stuff, just, you know, Christmas gifts and birthday gifts and whatever. And I said to him, why would somebody buy from you and not from Amazon? And so that was his response. He really didn't have an answer. And that's a pretty bad response in any business. If you can't do better than that. So I said to him, what is it you do well? What's your background? What have you been doing all these years? And he said, oh, my whole life, I've been a buyer. I know how to buy products, really good products, at the best prices. I said, well, why sell? Why not just buy? You buy the product, you ship it to Amazon, and you let Amazon sell it for you. My son used to do this. I used to say my son was in the toy arbitrage business. My son would go to Toys R Us, and he'd have a smartphone with a little app on it, and he'd look for things on sale at Toys R Us. And he would scan the barcode, and this little app would pop up. It would say, you can buy this on Amazon for X dollars. And the 3 cheapest prices are X, X, and X. And he would know right there if he could beat the prices on Amazon. And if he could, he would buy the product at Toys R Us, he would take it home, wrap it up, ship it into the Amazon warehouse, and let Amazon sell it for him. So it's a toy arbitrage business. But I'll come back to Amazon in a minute. So my gift shop client, he really didn't need a website. His obvious thought was, I'm going to buy products, buy gifts. I'll focus on gifts, and I'll sell them. I need a website. I'll set up a website. And it was completely the wrong. He was thinking, how can I sell products online? Instead, he should have been thinking about where the people were he wanted to reach. I'll come back to that in a moment, though. So the goal of this is not to tell you where to put keywords or to tell you which particular digital marketing channel you should be using. The goal of this little presentation is twofold. I want to give you a starting point or a way to create a starting point, a way for you to think about different digital marketing channels and come up with a rational one, as opposed to one that will take you in the wrong direction. And to do that, we need to broaden your digital marketing mind. Most people think website, SEO, pay-per-click, Facebook, maybe Twitter, and then they kind of get stuck. And I think you need to broaden your mind. This is what people typically think of as the digital marketing toolbox. There's just a few things in there, like I say, website, PPC, SEO, Twitter, Facebook. There's not much in there, but really, the tool set you need to pick from is like this, or even like this. It's a much broader selection of tools, and you don't have to know how to use all these tools. You just have to know which is the right tool, and then you figure out how to use that particular tool. You don't have to understand everything in the toolbox. While we're mixing metaphors, I found this the other day. If the ladder's not leaning against the right wall, every step we take just gets us to the wrong place faster. Stephen Covey, you've probably all heard of Stephen Covey. And I like this because I see this so often with my clients. They've put the ladder against the wrong wall and wasted a tremendous amount of time. This is what I'd like to help you avoid saying. This is a real quote I got from a client just a few weeks ago. I do a lot of consulting over the phone, basically. I have people from all around the world. We'll get on the phone, we'll do a screen sharing session. They can see what's on my screen. We can switch, I can see what's on their screen, and we talk about their products, about their SEO, about their competitors. And after one of these sessions, after about an hour, this client said to me, I've spent years wasting time doing the wrong things. And she knew she was doing the wrong things because she'd been working on her digital marketing, I think, for about 3 years, and she was going nowhere. And we sat down and picked it apart, and by the end of the time, the end of this 1 hour, she knew what she was doing wrong. And again, she'd gone in the wrong direction. So you shouldn't just jump into digital marketing. You need to start thinking about a strategy. What is the strategy? Don't just think, I've got to sell, let's set up a website. How am I going to set up a website? Well, there's BigCommerce, there's Yahoo Store, there's all sorts. But now you're getting distracted by pretty much irrelevant things, secondary things. Let me give you an example. This is a real example. Not a client of mine, somebody I ran into at a conference. She's a nutrition coach here in Denver, and she's trying to find nutrition coaching clients. So she was in the process of setting up a website, and I said, well, wait a second. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a website as a nutrition coach. I'm not saying that, but it may not be where you start. So the first thing I suggested was, well, what about Craigslist? Can you find clients in Craigslist? Now, this was a search for lose weight in Craigslist. Does everybody know Craigslist? Yeah, most people do. There are a lot of people selling weight loss, I'm not sure what, supplement services. Does it work? I don't know. I don't know if it would work for her or not. I was just chatting with her at a conference. So I wasn't guaranteeing anything. But the thing is, she can try this for free. Put an ad in Craigslist for free. So why not try it? Another mechanism she might try is Meetup. How many people know Meetup? Probably fewer people. Meetup is a system, it's a platform that helps you set up meetings and attract visitors, attract attendees to those meetings, and manage the attendees and manage the meetings. It's pretty cheap. There is a fee, but it doesn't cost much. And there are hundreds of thousands of meetups around the world. So there are a couple of ways she could be using the meetups. Now, one way would be to find existing meetups and go and speak to the groups, and hopefully attract clients through those groups. Another way would be to set up her own meetup. I put health and wellness in there, and it's telling me actually, if you look up here, it says Denver Wellness Meetup, over 50 interested. So Meetup are trying to get people to set up a Denver Wellness Meetup group, and they say they already have 50 people interested. So that's a couple of different ways you could use Meetup. She could use both. She could have her own meetings, go meet people at other meetups. She could also integrate Craigslist, use Craigslist to channel people to her meetups. So you need to create a strategy, and I have a very basic technique for creating a strategy. You don't ask, how do I sell my products? What you ask is, where are my prospects? Where are the people who are likely to buy my products hanging out online? And you need to answer these questions. Who is the client? That's an obvious one. I'm not going to spend much time on that. Every business needs to know who its client is. The second one is, where is that client? That's the most important thing. Where is that client hanging out? And once you understand where they are, you need to think about how to reach them. And I think of these, the mechanisms for reaching them, I think of as the channels, marketing channels in effect. Now, for instance, let's say Google is the place where people are hanging out. There are two channels, well, actually there are several channels, but there are two primary channels. One is, yes, you have a website and you're going to do search engine optimization, so you end up in the results. Another one is, yes, you have a website, it could be a very cheap and simple website, and you do pay-per-click advertising. So that's one place that people are hanging out, the Google search engine, but 2 different channels to reach them. So that's how I'm thinking about channels. Once you've done that, now remember the toolkit. I told you about the toolkit. You don't have to know how all those tools work. Once you know which channels you want to attack, you pick one. And you learn about that channel, you use that channel, and then you rinse and repeat. Either it doesn't work, you move on to the next one, or it works, you perfect it, and you pick another tool, you pick another channel. One of the problems with digital marketing is there is just so much you can do, and it can become totally overwhelming, and your brain just fills up. You can't think straight. There's just too much information out there. Yes?
Yeah. The other thing is that it's changing constantly. It's advancing so rapidly. Youth, I think, is driving this, and that's some of the best channels there are. I don't know if anybody's ever seen or heard about BeautyCon.
BeautyCon? No, I
In
don't.
Las Vegas. You ever seen YouTube and these girls putting on makeup, doing all that? They make millions of dollars just doing that, and people sponsor them and sell their products through that. And BeautyCon's a whole.
And they have subscribers and stuff.
Yeah, and yeah, they have millions of subscribers, and
Yeah,
so
lots,
you know, YouTube, and there's all kinds of organizations like BeautyCon where millions of young girls go there to see their stars that are on
Yeah.
YouTube, and they buy products. They buy millions, millions, and millions of dollars of products. So this is changing really rapidly, and you gotta. I'd pay attention to the youth because they're driving the social media, and what are they using now? You know, some of this has come and gone at times. So,
No, you're absolutely right. And sorry.
well, yeah. I mean, they'll have a blog and YouTube, and then they'll have somebody's web address, and you go there, and then you buy it. Go to a landing page, and then you buy it off the landing page.
You-
go through the website. You don't have to do anything. So.
You can put links in YouTube videos, so you can take somebody directly to a transaction page of some kind. But you're absolutely right. There are so many different. I hadn't heard of BeautyCon. Now I know exactly what you're talking about. The girls on YouTube, that sort of beauty blogging, or whatever they call it. There are so many different channels now. The toolkit, the big toolkit I showed you, is an underestimate. I mean, there are just millions of channels now. So many different ways to do business online. All right, so where are they? And that's a simple question, where are they? It's really a simple answer. You do start at Google. Now, Google may not be where you end up marketing through SEO, pay-per-click, or whatever, but starting at Google, you start searching for the keywords you think people will use to find your products. And in some cases, that's difficult. I've had clients where nobody's going to search for their products because it's such a new idea. Nobody's searching, so you have to think out of the box, think around the whole problem, and what are the people you're trying to reach searching for. So to come back to my gift store client, so you may recall, I said to him, why don't you sell through Amazon? And the first thing, now I told you, look for where people are. If you're selling products, where are people? They're actually not at Google. Most product searches, well, some are at Google, actually millions are at Google, but most product searches don't go through Google. They go through Amazon, they go through Craigslist, they go through eBay, they go through Etsy, they go through Rakuten. Most actual purchase searches are not going through Google, they're going through other channels. Now, I need my glasses on. So we've got 500,000 searches every second through Google. But still, these other places are where most transaction searches go, or most product searches go. And most of those are going through Amazon. 43% of all online revenue went to Amazon last year. 43%. If that was Walmart, 43% of brick and mortar revenue, Walmart would have been broken up years ago. But nonetheless, this is Amazon's dirty little secret. 43% goes to Amazon. But what is interesting is a huge proportion of that money is actually not going, well, Amazon's taking its cut, but a huge proportion of that money is going to third-party merchants, as Len has discovered. Len has started selling on Amazon. And so anybody can sell on Amazon. In fact, if you go to an Amazon product page, you'll see a little button saying, got one to sell, or something like that, sell yours, or whatever. You click on that button, it will lead you through a process where you can sell your product. Are you using FBA? Are you putting it in the warehouse? No. You're just shipping it yourself? Yeah. You might want to consider FBA. Amazon has a program called FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon. You ship your product to their warehouse, they keep it in the warehouse, and then you forget about it. Amazon will sell it. When somebody buys it, they'll ship it for you. If there's a return problem, the product gets returned, then they'll manage the return. As I said before, my son, who was in the toy arbitrage business, he just shipped it to Amazon. He didn't mess with it. And I have an Amazon store, actually. It was a startup I was working with until a couple of years ago, but the store's still ticking along. We were buying used products, video games, digital cameras, DVDs, laptops, and we were selling them through Amazon. And what we were finding was you ship it to Amazon, 85% of it's going to sell within a month. Another 10, 15% will sell the next month. Now, it depends what kind of products. If you've got a really specialty product, maybe not. But those are the numbers we had. And so,
Well, like Lynn just started, but if his volumes went way up, would it pay off for him to ship to Amazon and let them fulfill
well, it may pay off even if your volumes don't go up dramatically, because if it's just one every year or something, you've got a problem. But a lot of people won't buy if you're shipping. A lot of people will only buy if Amazon's shipping. And I do this quite often. You've probably seen a little checkbox that says Amazon Prime, and you click on that checkbox, and then it removes all the stuff that isn't being shipped by Amazon. So you can increase your sales through Amazon simply by putting a few in a warehouse. And it doesn't have to take long to figure out how to do it. It might take an evening or two of digging around. And then it's just, you're going to ship it to a client, well, ship it to Amazon. And that can increase the sales. Mm-hmm.
Their selling agreement is about 40 pages. And the fulfillment by Amazon is really scary because they want to charge you for warehousing.
Yeah, but the warehousing fee is so low. It really is. You don't want to have half a ton of stuff sitting there for a year. But if you time it correctly, how big is your... it's a soap dish, ceramic soap dish. So you're not talking big things. You send half a dozen to them, you're never going to worry about the warehousing fees. It's pretty minimal. And it's often, I don't know how efficient you are with your shipping, but it's often cheaper to let them ship than do it yourself. Because it will go in a box that's already going. Amazon shipping is pretty cheap. So that's one way. In that context, the gift store, got a little bit off track there. The gift store guy, that's where people were. They're in these different channels. Go sell in Amazon. If you get Amazon going, all right, try eBay. A lot of these stores actually are marketplaces. Sears is a marketplace. You can sell your own products through Sears. You can sell your products through Rakuten, used to be buy.com. You can sell your products through Walmart. And so there are products that will manage your inventory for you. You put your inventory into this piece of software, and it spits it out to these different marketplaces. Walmart, Rakuten, Amazon, eBay, Etsy maybe. I don't know if they're on that system, but depending on what products you have. Now, Etsy is all handicrafts, but Amazon now sells handicrafts. I don't know if you're aware of that.
No, but I am.
You are now. Amazon has a handmade product channel. Amazon has an Etsy competitor within Amazon. My daughter-in-law is an artist, and she's making handbags. She designs the handbags and makes them and so on. She sells through Etsy, and now she's looking at Amazon. Most people don't know about the Amazon channel, but there's a good chance they will soon, knowing Amazon. So again, this is just a summary. You guess where people are. You dig around. You do a search at Google, do a search at Bing. You're just spending a few hours trying to figure out where your clients are hanging out online. And that can be websites. That can be discussion groups we saw earlier on. The Miata guy, Jake, was selling through forums, through discussion groups. You have to be very careful selling through forums, by the way. You can upset people very quickly. But you're trying to find out where these people are. And then you kind of also, you can brainstorm. Once these things are floating around in your head, you brainstorm it and you see connections. And I'll explain a good connection to you in a minute. Then you make a list of these channels and you pick one. So let me give you an example. I have a friend who's a chef, and he wanted to do some personal chefing. Somebody will come to your home and cook for you, cook for a party you're having, or there are chefs now, they'll cook for you and bring the food over and drop it off and so on. So we did a search. And what do you find if you do a search for personal chef in Denver? You find there are some personal chefs with their own websites. So that's the route they took, and they've done quite well. That, there's a few people ranking at the top. I don't know how many people are ranking 5 pages in, and so they've gone to the expense of setting up a website, but they're not getting any traffic. Another thing you will see is Craigslist. There are people advertising themselves on Craigslist. There are also lead generation websites such as Thumbtack. I don't know, anybody heard Thumbtack? And TaskRabbit. I'm not sure if TaskRabbit does cooking, but there are these websites that will sell leads to people. So if you search for personal chef, Thumbtack comes up here, and they will take the lead and they'll sell it to personal chefs. In fact, this is Thumbtack. They don't do, it's not just personal chefs, it's painters and electricians and all sorts of services. But this is Thumbtack. This is my friend's little profile on Thumbtack. Another thing, Amazon also does personal services. They're not big in this area right now, but and they don't take personal chefs. But this is something that we added to our list as we were trying to figure out what are the different possible channels. We thought about this. Amazon, what do they call it? I can't remember what they call it. Personal services, home and business services. Amazon home and business services, painters, and this is music lessons. If you do guitar lessons, you can advertise through Amazon. Again, they'll sell you the leads. So you think about how do you reach these people? So you've discovered the different places these people are hanging out. Now, how do you reach them? Well, after we did that little bit of research, it only took an hour or two, we came up with these different channels. One way would be to build a website and do SEO, search engine optimization. In other words, you configure the website in such a way that you get it to rank high up in the search results. So if somebody comes and types Personal Chef Denver, you rank up high, your website's up high, people click on it and come to your website. That's one channel. Another channel would be to have a website and do pay-per-click advertising. You pay Amazon for all the clicks. You advertise up high, pay them each time somebody clicks on your ad. And the website can be simpler. Oh, well, number 3 is what I did, yeah. Simple website, because you don't need a complicated website for pay-per-click advertising. For SEO, you need a more complicated site. Another way would be the lead generation sites, Thumbtack, and Big City Chefs, and Hire a Chef. There's a whole bunch of them that will sell leads to chefs. Another one would be Craigslist. Remember, there are people that are chefs online selling through Craigslist. Another way would be getting into the press. So if you search a personal chef in Denver, you will find local newspapers, local magazines that have articles about personal chefs in Denver. Getting a listing in Yelp. I'm sure most people have heard of Yelp. Personal chefs have listings in there. There are so many, very broad range of businesses have listings in Yelp. It doesn't have to just be restaurants and bars and hotels. And then this one, number 8, was, I was telling you about the brainstorming, and when you start thinking about how different things fit together and you start brainstorming it, why not contact Airbnb hosts? So Airbnb is a place where you can rent out a room in your house or the entire house. It's a multi-billion-dollar company now. And in fact, I was renting out my property. And I had, I think it was a wedding party. It was like 6 people staying at my house. And my chef friend, he came over and cooked for them one night. If you have 6 people in a house, it's often cheaper to have a chef come in and cook for you than it is to go out to a restaurant. So then we started thinking, wow, that's a nice little channel. Why not contact Airbnb hosts and offer that as a service? Why not contact TripAdvisor hosts? So Airbnb isn't the only place people rent homes. They also rent them through Flipkey, which is owned by TripAdvisor, and they rent them through HomeAway and VRBO and so on. So that's the brainstorming thing. That's not an obvious thing. That's not going to come up when you do a Google search. But once you start to put the pieces together, you find these little channels you hadn't thought about. So you pick a channel and you research it. Well, for this chef, what would we do? I think we would pick Craigslist first. And the reason I say that, well, two reasons. First, it's free, and it's easy. He could sit down and do this in an evening and have a marketing channel up and running that night. So here's an ad. Here's a Craigslist chef ad. So what are you going to discover when you start digging around and thinking about marketing on Craigslist? First thing you're going to discover is, I probably wouldn't buy from that guy, but I might buy from this guy. So we got pictures there. There's much, much more information. We're going to discover these sorts of things. That evening you spend looking at Craigslist, you're going to learn about the mechanics. How do I post on Craigslist? It doesn't take long. It's very simple. You're going to learn that the ads that seem to stand out have photographs, and maybe a bunch of photographs. You're going to learn that the more detail, the better. It just looks like you'll get this feeling as you go through. You see like a one paragraph, yeah, I'll come over your house and cook for you, or you see this bigger thing, you know, I've cooked for the finest restaurants here and there, and talks about the background, the history, and the sorts of things you can cook, and so on. That's a more appealing ad. You'll learn that you need to chunk the text into pieces. You use headings and spacing and bulleted and numbered lists. That might take a little bit longer, by the way, because you need to learn really basic HTML in order to basic coding, or you can always just use an asterisk as a bullet. But another thing you might think about is you want to post multiple ads. One ad would be, let me come and cook for you once a week when you get home from work. Another ad might be, let me cook for your family when they come visit. Another ad might be, whatever. You come up with different pitches, different sort of approaches to what you're selling. And the other thing is you want to post frequently. You can't overdo it. You can't take the same ad and post it 20 times a week. You're going to get kicked off. But what you can do is take multiple ads and probably post each one twice a week or something, so you've got a constant presence. So in one evening, you've learned how to use that channel. You've got a channel up and running, and you just let it run. You have to get online and repost every day or two, but it doesn't take long. So what would we do next? I think the next thing I would do is the lead generation sites. So I would go to Thumbtack. I would go to Big City Chefs. You already have all the information because you wrote all that information for Craigslist, and you gathered together the photographs for Craigslist. And so you already have that information. So again, in one evening, you could be listed with 1, 2, 3, 4 different lead generation sites. What next? I would pick number 7 next because it's pretty easy to get listed on Yelp. And so again, you have all the information you need. You have all the content you need, all the text. You have all the images you need. So go and list on Yelp. So in a couple of, well, let's say 3 evenings, we have a bunch of channels already. We've got Craigslist, but we might have 3 or 4 lead generation sites, and we've got Yelp, or Yelp in the process.
Pay for a listing on that? I mean, that's separate from the reviews, right?
I'm sorry, separate from?
The reviews.
You don't pay for a listing on Yelp. The reviews, you have to have a listing sitting there in order to get reviewed, right? Yelp will try and upsell you. They will try to get you to pay for various services, but they need listings. All these sites need, well, all the local business services, like a business listing with Amazon, a business listing with Bing, with Yahoo, they need those listings. They'll take as many as they can. Now, they might try and upsell you, but so we've got a whole bunch of channels already. The next thing I would do, I think, is start contacting Airbnb hosts. And you have to be careful how you do it. It might take you a few days to figure out how to get through the channel to reach the host, because they don't really want to be spammed by people. The idea is You can be contacted by somebody wanting to rent your home, so you have to be very polite and careful when you do this. But I do that because it's free and it's relatively easy. You're going to be sending a few emails an evening and so on. After that, it starts to get complicated. Which is, well, mentions in the press, obviously, is a major PR operation.
We've had some people come to us and say, you do a press release, and you send it out to media organizations, and it seems like they get so many and they kind of get ignored, and maybe it's not
Yeah.
effective.
Press releases, you can't expect too much from press releases. I wouldn't expect to get an article in 5280 magazine for my chefing business based on a press release. Those sorts of things occur with more of a PR campaign. You're picking up the phone and talking to people and trying to get them to, try out your service, visit your business, try your product. It's a more complicated thing. There's a place for press releases, but and that's another subject, and you can't expect too much from those. Setting up a website and doing SEO, this is where it starts to get complicated. And so I've left that, further down the list. SEO actually isn't that complicated, but you have to have the knowledge, you have to learn it. And so, yeah, I'm going to leave that down the list a bit. Website and pay-per-click. Well, actually, number 3, simple website and pay-per-click. Setting up a simple website is very easy. You can set up one with Wix.com or Squarespace.com. There's a lot of simple website building sites. Pay-per-click is complicated. It's actually very easy to set up a pay-per-click campaign, as Google will tell you. It's very hard to set up a pay-per-click campaign that won't lose you money. And so Google actually has a service called Google AdWords Express. AdWords is the pay-per-click service of Google. So let me just explain pay-per-click again. Pay-per-click are those little text ads at the top of the search results. And these days on Google, it has a little block, a little image that says ad. In order to get that in there, you have to sign up with something called Google AdWords. And you're going to pay every time somebody clicks on that ad, not when they see it. If they just see the ad and do nothing, it's free. You don't get charged. But if they click on the ad, you will be charged. And the charge might be 10 cents, probably not these days. It might be $2 or $3, might be $5 or $10. It depends on what you're selling. Click prices go up to $80, $100, depending on, in the legal field, for instance, mesothelioma. Last time I looked, mesothelioma ads were like $80 per click. And I believe they're much higher now. I haven't looked at it in a number of years.
I was in it for a while, but it just wasn't paying off.
Mesothelioma? Oh, in pay-per-click, you say?
Did you try pay-per-click?
I did, but aren't you competing, I have one product, I sell many different colors and a couple sizes, but in pay-per-clicks, you're really bidding on a word, is that right? But you're bidding against Target, many big companies that have thousands of products,
Yeah.
so I didn't find it to be.
No, it's difficult. A pay-per-click campaign will only run if it's set up properly. It'll only work well if it's set up properly. And it's very complicated to set them up properly. There's a lot of mistakes small business owners make, and they lose a lot of money. Even if you do it absolutely right, there's still a very good chance you will lose money. If you have an average order price of $20 or $30 or $40 or $50, it's highly unlikely you'll make money with pay-per-click advertising. I'm not saying it can never be done. In some fields, it can, in very specific niches. But generally speaking, the odds are against you if you for $30, $40, $50. I have clients whose average order is in the thousands of dollars. There's a lot of padding there for them to work with. They still have to do it right, or they'll lose money. But when you're talking about small orders in the dozens of dollars, it's very difficult to make pay-per-click work. So be careful with pay-per-click. And Google AdWords Express is a scandal. It's an outrage. I can't believe nobody's sued Google over it so far. Google has this simplified pay-per-click system where they took all the mistakes that the average small business owner makes in pay-per-click advertising and sort of encoded them into Google AdWords Express. It's a fantastic way to lose money, so I would stay away from it. So open your mind. It's more than just websites, SEO, and pay-per-click. So this is what I'm trying to explain here. You need to think outside the box. You need to, not just say, how many sell my products? I'll set up a website. You have to broaden your view, start thinking about where people are and the different ways you can reach them. I'll show, this is an unusual one, and I'm a bit of a geek, I guess, and I'm involved in SEO, so this is something I ran into just recently, but I'm using it as an example of, thinking outside the box. Everybody wants to be, excuse me, number one on Google. That's something, everybody wants to rank right up at the top, and I discovered this little mechanism where I ranked number one on Google within several minutes, basically. And what I was doing is I was investigating a channel, and this is something called Quora. It's a question and answer channel. You run into it? I see, yeah. It's like Yahoo Answers for people with brains. I don't know how many of you have ever used Yahoo Answers. It's a dreadful system, isn't it? But Quora, it's much more high-quality answers. People ask questions, and you're likely to get an answer that actually makes some sense. And so I was looking at Quora as a channel, just kind of playing around with it. And I found a list of the highest ranking pages on Quora, or rather the pages on Quora that got the most traffic. Now, this what I'm going to show you does not help me in any way in particular. But as an experiment, I thought, well, I'm going to post an ad into this page. And you can see the question. Oh, well, you can't see the question, actually. Was it in here? The question was, how much does 5 gallons of water weigh? And if you search Google for how much does a gallon of water weigh, I think it was, this is the answer. The Quora answer comes up number one. So I wrote an article, a little answer to this. And you can see I've kind of bolded it, and I've broken it into pieces. It's not just a big bunch of text. I put a picture in there. It's a baby. Everybody loves babies. And there's even water in the picture, so it kind of matches what I'm doing. And by the way, this is an important concept, maybe making light of it, but if you're posting something online, if you have a picture in the post, it is far more likely to be read. There are just experiments that show this. Whatever kind of channel, whether it's on Twitter or LinkedIn or wherever it's going, it's more likely to be read if there's a picture in it. Anyway, and here's an example of what not to do. So this is mine with all the chunking and the bold and italic and a picture. And then this is a guy who's actually been on Quora for many years. He's even a sexologist. You think he'd be getting a lot of reads. But, and I don't know why a sexologist is answering this question, but it's pretty intimidating. It's not easy to read something like that. So this is number one on Google. How much does a gallon of water weigh? Oh, it's how much is a gallon. And the very first answer up here is that page. And on, this is Bing. It's down here, I think. It's also here, so it's also very high. And I was ranking number one within minutes, literally within minutes. I posted my answer into that page within minutes. My content's number one on Google for that answer. Not very useful, admittedly. This one was more useful. So if you search for Chuck Norris trick, which people were doing, number 2 is the Quora page. Now this is a website, Chuck Norris, what's it? I can't even read it. NoChuckNorris.com, and this page will disappear from the search results soon because the website's gone. This is the Quora answer. It will be number 1 soon. So you search for this, and this is what you find if you went into the old website. You got what looked like a Google result that says Google won't search for Chuck Norris because it knows you don't find Chuck Norris. He finds you. and run before he finds you. That's the suggestion, the Google suggestion, run before he finds you. Now, this is actually a serious SEO technique. I'm not going to go into the details. It's called Google bombing, and there are people out there saying, well, how did they do the Chuck Norris trick? And my answer comes up number 1 on Google for Chuck Norris trick, or it will as soon as the old Chuck Norris site has dropped off. So I did this by dropping my content into somebody else's page that already ranks high. So this is a real world example. So as I mentioned to a couple of you, I do some expert witness work. In other words, in litigation related to internet technology and digital marketing, I act as an expert witness for the plaintiff or the defendant, depending on the case. I sort of explain to the court how whatever it is that happened. And so this is a little while ago. Let's say somebody searches for internet expert witness. Well, I was coming up, and I still do come up, number 1 here because I pay for it. This is a pay-per-click ad. You can see the little ad thing here. But I was coming up in these other places too. The cyber investigation, I don't know if I was coming up in here, but I went through the results looking for places I could put my content. So the first place was here, cyberinvestigationservices.com. That's an agency. I could quite likely list with that agency, and so if somebody clicked on that link, they might find me. The same here, this is an agency, Juris Pro. I've been in this for years, so if somebody clicks on this link, there's a good chance they'll find me. Software Analysis Group, I can't remember what happened to them. I think I tried to contact them as well. It's an agency. I could come up in that. This is the next page, expertwitness.com. If you click on that one, my content's in there. hg.org, my content's in there. Seek Experts, it was, but I don't know if I've renewed my membership. Expert Pages.